What's up, everybody? Hope all is well. I love a good thought experiment, and to me, a curious one to consider is how the move to 5v5 could drastically change two things. First being what role people select, and the second being queue times. And let's not forget, to make matters even more complicated, PvE appears to be just 4-man teams, though that's not confirmed, so let's talk about it. I think a lot of people are going to grapple with role selection come Overwatch 2. For many, it's a big deal. Now granted, we know essentially nothing about it aside from the format change, but even if it is somehow miraculously perfectly balanced and every hero feels good to play in a vacuum, the format change alone will drastically alter the way we play. Even more so if the rumors of a shift towards player power and away from teamwork come true. As for how the format change will affect queue times, well, I think we all see how it could help in theory, but in practice, I don't know, I'm not convinced yet. Some speculate that 5v5s do in part to make balance easier, and while it's a bummer to lose the headcount, if it does in fact make balance easier, that'll make leveraging balance itself to control queue times more effective. If it fails, however, well, there's an argument to be made it's just less of a game. In a not so ironic twist of fate, role selection and queue times are not only directly correlated, but also nebulous concepts rather than systems where a twist of a dial fixes it. So while critical to the game functioning on the most basic of levels, it's not something that can be engineered to just work flawlessly. So sit back, relax, and hear me out. I think you'll agree with me on role selection, probably disagree with me on queue times, and almost certainly laugh with me at my Junkrat play. I know I'm a support main, but I haven't played DPS on ladder in 20 plus seasons. I thought as an exercise for this video, it'd be interesting to try it out again, if for no other reason than to get a better feel for the role before Overwatch 2 comes and I'm at this decision point myself. Role selection can be a complicated thing. First, it's a commitment. To really excel in the role, you need to play it a lot. Second, the ever-evolving nature of heroes and the meta by proxy escalates the anxiety around said time commitment. And third, it's a somewhat personal statement. Like selecting a new car, it speaks about you. This is the type of player and person I am. So yeah, it's a big deal, and perhaps the most telling sign is how it's almost universally used as the identifier for players. For some, this is a non-issue. They're cool picking up and playing whatever's fun, but even if you are that type, I hope you can appreciate that therein lies the beauty of Overwatch. It's a rare game that offers such contemplation, and I think it's better off for it. It speaks to the game's mobile-like aspect. Warzone, Fortnite, Halo, nothing out there offers such depth. Why do I think a lot of people will reconsider their roles? Well, like I said earlier, even if it's perfectly balanced, the format change alone means it'll just play differently. The repercussions will take months to play out as everyone experiments to find out what they like now in this new format. There will be obvious changes, like some people just won't ever tank again being a solo role, while at the same time, and for the same reason, others will. And more subtle things like how it feels to play support in what appears to be a DPS-focused version of the game. And then there's the individual hero balance to consider, especially for tanks and supports who have so few heroes to choose from. As an example, I'm a hardcore support, but Ana and Bap are the only heroes I really enjoy playing. If the support role is decent overall, but Ana's awful, well, I'm probably not playing support. It is what it is, didn't say that as some weird ultimatum, just being honest. I wish we could dig deeper for a better idea how things will shake out, but we just don't know much about PvP yet. There's a good half dozen or so videos of gameplay and dev interviews, but none get specific and instead talk about higher level overarching design concepts. The developer livestream from May last year came first, followed by some professional exhibitions in the fall. Each important for their own reasons, and despite everything being subject to change, it's good to see what the devs are thinking and how it played as of just a few months ago. There's also the two rework videos, Sombra and Bastion, that were so batshit insane even the pros were like, dude. Let's get into that, and then I'll tell you where my head's at. So what are the devs saying? Well, there's a few big takeaways. Bottom line to it all is the move to 5v5 is an effort to simplify the game for casuals and viewers, as well as open it up to a more offensive playstyle with a reduction of protection and healing. Making balance easier is a bonus, though personally I think it's more of a driving factor than they'll ever let on. In their eyes, this is a win-win. A more accessible game for everyone, and a playstyle that caters to their biggest demographic, DPS players. Whether or not you agree is up to you, but I'll share my thoughts in a bit. Here are a few dev comments I collected researching the video. I'll keep them short, thus I encourage you to watch the full source video for full context. And second, some of this is more than 6 months old now, so things may have changed.
If you think about it, there is a lot going on in an Overwatch map. It is incredibly fast-paced, but tanks can be problematic. They're a DPS hero is simple. They're shooting, but a tank has abilities. There is a greater chance of certain people being able to carry, whether that's the tank on the team or some of the DPS.
You know, for example, healing, you can kind of focus on one tank now. And the tanks are even beefier than they are on live, the individual tanks, because this is one of them. So we're thinking, well, is it too good to just play like 2-man healers and dump healing in your tank? And is it too hard to kill now? And maybe healing is too good now? And
but it's also just kind of easier for the viewer and just people at home to track.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I think something that's really interesting about that too is the gameplay is more fluid than it was before.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times in Overwatch you get these really hard battle lines.
Speaking about like players being able to take more control of the game, right? Creating more flanking routes, more opportunity for the Ashe to go to the side, get a pick, and open things up for a team.
Yeah, there's a lot more opportunity.
Ouch. Oh, geez. So what am I thinking? First, let me state clearly, I'm not being that harsh, judgmental player who hates on things. I'm just being authentic here. But I have to say, personally, none of that sounds good. But to each their own, that's just how I feel. It's sounding like there will be less protection, less healing, and more flanking. And while I appreciate some may prefer that, I'm dubious I'd enjoy it as much. But we'll see. I'm hopeful. Maybe hero balance will make it all okay. Just anecdotally playing both role queue and open queue now, the chasm between how a 2-2-2 match feels versus say even a 3-2-1 match is pretty drastic. I don't know how that reconciles with her claims Overwatch 2 and testing still feels like Overwatch 1, but despite all my anxiety, I have to be a critical thinker and acknowledge they're professionals and I'm just guessing. Personally, my plan is going to be simple. I intend to stay as support, but I'll spend the first 30 to 60 days playing everything to see what I like. Once things settle down and general metas start to form, I'll decide from there. Critical to it all is how it feels to play support in this new era. Early signs suggest it won't be pleasant, but like I said, maybe I'm just overreacting. I don't think I'll consider playing tank again simply because it's a solo role, but I'm 100% open to playing DPS if it comes to that. And in fact, part of me is sort of preparing for it already, thus playing DPS on ladder this season. The more I thought about all this, the more I kept coming back to queue times. Consider how my thinking may be that of many players. And beyond that, there's one giant thing everyone seems to be ignoring and how it too will affect queue times: PvE. So let's talk queue times, arguably the single biggest problem the game has. It's lost countless players, viewers, and content creators. One reason for the move to 5v5 is a hope that it'll improve this. The current bottleneck are tanks and to a slightly lesser degree supports. In theory, by having the number of tanks in each game, you effectively double the number of games available to longer queues. But that's logic in a vacuum and relies entirely on role selection, which itself is based on game and hero balance, and yeah, it's an elusive target at best. I think a lot of tank and support players will have the same thinking as me with regards to role selection. I'm not saying most, but enough to impact queue times. Yes, there's a flip side of the coin where it's possible some DPS players will switch to playing tank or support, but consider this. If the state of the game is such that playing DPS is so good, even hardcore tank and support players drop their roles to main it, why would a hardcore DPS player abandon it themselves? The point I'm trying to make is it's a fine line between making a DPS focused game and making a DPS only game. And by moving it too far from a team focus to more of a solo carry thing, there's risk of alienating players who fill those team-oriented roles. Some might leave, sure, but most would probably just stick around and go DPS. So tank and support population shrink, DPS population grows, wreaking havoc on queue times again. I hope it never happens, but it's within the realm of reason because again, it all relies on the nebulous concept of balance. And I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about PvE and how it'll affect PvP queue times. Almost immediately, a portion of the player base will switch to that mode exclusively, and I'd argue a disproportionate percentage will be tank and support players. It's difficult to verbalize why, but I get the same intrinsic reward healing or tanking in Overwatch as I did in WoW. The thought of bringing that feeling to PvE in Overwatch is exciting and potentially all-consuming, honest. All of this and more brought me to the conclusion that I don't think 5v5 is going to help queue times much, at least not in the short term. They'll be all over the place the first few months and then likely settle right back into the same sort of problems with new ones added on top. As balance and metas fluctuate, role selection and player count will as well. And if PvE grows, it'll perpetually steal the type of player who would typically be in tank and support roles. But there's a silver lining here. First, simply attracting new players with PvE, even if they are more team-oriented, might convert them to also playing PvP. Second, by having both modes, it's possible for Blizzard to optimize for both demographics. And third, players who might be put off by the sometimes try-hard nature of PvP have an avenue to stick around in the Overwatch world and still enjoy it with PvE. So, final thoughts. It's exciting, isn't it? The anticipation, the curiosity, the adventure ahead, I'm really looking forward to it, and adding PvE is mega. One other thing to consider in all this is the Microsoft acquisition. It'll be a few years before they actually hold the reins, but I wonder if that gamer-friendly focus Microsoft has will rub off on Blizzard early. If game design was previously focused on maximizing profit, but that shifts some and now devs are free to build the best game, period, there's no telling what we get. And with that, I'm done. I appreciate you taking the time. Take care of one another, and I will see you soon. What's up, everybody?
Hello.
How's it going, man?
Good, good. You guys?
Not bad.
Eh.
Why only eh? What's wrong, buddy?
I'm playing this game, that's why. It's always this way.
You guys like the top 3 lunar skins made this patch?
No.
Definitely, that Mercy skin is one of the worst skins in the game.
Yeah,
I like the porcelain
I've never seen
skin.
anything.
The Mercy one's not too bad. All
the
right?
Mercy one,
is.
it's okay, but everybody's freaking out
It's
over it.
so
Same deal.
boring.
I'm like, well, what's the
So
big deal?
boring.
Yeah. Yeah, there
People
wasn't.
freaking out about it?
Well, no,
I think
you
it's
know
okay.
what I mean.
I
People
feel
are
like a
doing.
lot of Mercy skins are pretty overrated.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, they put so much work, and this one's just, like, simpler, I guess, than the other one.
Quick vote of the lobby. Overwatch 2 this year or next year? What do you guys think? This year?
No.
2 years.
All
5
right.
years.
Take the time they need to make it good.
When One Piece finishes.
That's what it is.
Sombra behind you.
Top guys.
There's a soldier that came from behind.
Right one, right one.
Ryan, one.
Focus monkey, focus monkey. Monkey jump down.
Monkey, yeah. Soldier
Monkey
top,
dead?
Soldier up top, look at soldier. I'm low, need you.
I'm on soldier, He jumped down. I'm a slut.
I'm covering you.